What even are the best and worst things about Eugene? My name is Hannah Caldwell. I'm a local realtor, and I'm going to tell you what I think the pros of living in Eugene are and maybe some of the cons. Honestly, I think pros and cons are pretty subjective. I asked my husband about this, and we had some of the exact same things that I said were pros and he said were cons. So let's get into it. If you are thinking about moving to Eugene, please feel free to reach out. All of my contact information is in the description box below, and I would love to help you find a home. So let's start with my biggest pro of living in Eugene. And it kind of goes together, but it's the abundance of natural beauty and in combination with outdoor activities. We're in the Pacific Northwest. It's lush, it's green, it's beautiful. We are in a valley, but we're surrounded by a couple little hills. And so there's lots of hiking, there's lots of water sports. We have Fern Ridge Reservoir, we have the Willamette River and the Mackenzie River. So there's, kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, there's mountain biking, there is rock climbing. Basically all of the outdoor activities really in Eugene are available. If you're willing to venture just outside of Eugene, Eugene is prime located for access to lots of other natural beauty and activities as well, because we are less than 2 hours from the coast. So the Oregon coast is amazing and beautiful, and you can drive there easily in a day, walk along the beach. The other direction, you can go within an hour and be on a ski slope. So if you are into outdoor recreation, there really, I think, is no better place than Eugene in terms of proximity and having it right at your fingertips. That is by far my biggest pro, because I'm also into all of those things. If anybody wants to go rock climbing, you can hit me up that way too. I think another big pro for me for Eugene is actually the size of, this is always confusing. Do I call it a town or do I call it a city? A pro is the size of the town. It is a large town, and we have, Eugene and Springfield right next to each other that are kind of really one community. It's just divided by I-5, but it still has a really small town feel. It still has a community feel, and it still seems really tight-knit, even though it is it actually is the second largest city in Oregon after Portland. So despite it being numerically very large, or not very large, but relatively large, it still has a really unique kind of small town community feel, but with the resources of a larger community. Another pro, of course, and this is one of those that toes the line. Is it a pro or is it a con? We don't have any sales tax in Oregon, which is great. You don't have to walk into the grocery store and pay an extra couple cents on the pack of gum that you bought. On the flip side, we do have generally higher income and higher property taxes. So this can be a pro or a con depending on your circumstances. Another thing that I love about Eugene that I think is definitely a good thing, and this is subjective, so it's different for everybody, but I think that Eugene has a lot of diversity in cuisine. We have so many good restaurants. We have so much different kinds of food: Thai food, Ethiopian food, American food, pizza, Italian. We really have it all, and we have really, in my opinion, high quality restaurants and high caliber restaurants. And I worked in some of them, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but what are you gonna do? I also think that Eugene has a really strong entertainment, industry. We have a lot that you can do. We have the Eugene Ballet. We have Ballet Fantastique, which is kind of an alternative, less traditional ballet. We have the Holt Center, which has, Broadway shows coming through on a regular basis and various performances from musicians and all the like. We have a number of local theaters for, if you're into seeing plays. We have the Eugene Opera, we have an orchestra. I mean, the list goes on, but if you're into things that are less formal than that, we have, lots of athletics. So many bars have trivia, karaoke, all of those typical things too. In my personal opinion, you can find stuff to do on basically every night of the week in Eugene. Sometimes I feel like my social calendar is a little bit too full. Just want to slow down. On that topic, sports is, I think, another pro of Eugene, and this is in a bunch of different facets. So this is not just that we have the University of Oregon. So of course we have Duck athletics, and that is a huge part of Eugene. Oregon Duck football is a thing all in of itself. But if you're into attending sports, you can go to any games: football games, men's and women's basketball games, volleyball, baseball at PK Park, all of the deck athletics. That's something that's available to you at the tip of your fingers. We have a minor league baseball team, the Eugene Emeralds. We just got a minor league basketball team. I think that they're called the Jaguars. So that's brand new in Eugene. Sports in terms of participation, there's a lot of recreational sports at various age levels. I play adult co-ed recreational soccer, and I've done that for years. Sometimes I play multiple games a week. There's adult foosball available, like where you are human foosball players, which is so fun. There's so many different rec sports. And then when it comes to kids athletics, it's something that the community really pushes as an important factor. We just built a beautiful new facility, a kids sports facility, which is a community resource for children's recreational athletics. It's got a soccer field and basketball courts, and then in Springfield we have Willamette Lane. So there's a lot of resources that are trying to push activity for children because we know how beneficial it can be to them. And we're kind of getting into this gray area. So the biggest debate, right, when you look up the pros and cons of living in Eugene, what is the number one thing that's going to come up? The number one thing that people are going to say is the biggest con of living in Eugene is the rain. And I'm like, yeah, the rain sucks. Trust me. I think the rain sucks. I don't like rain. I have, suffer from seasonal depression. I definitely am more motivated in the summer, but I can't list the rain in Eugene as a huge con, because I think on the flip side of that, we have some of the most beautiful summers that I think exist. We have comfortable temperatures in the summer. We have so many activities that you can do and that are feasible because it's not sweltering hot. We actually have 4 true seasons. We have a spring where it is rainy but everything's in bloom. We have a fall where the leaves fall, and oftentimes we still have sunny days in the fall and they're gorgeous. We have a winter, and of course winter, yeah, it's gross. It's mostly rainy, not a lot of snowy, but we do have enough mountains and things that there's snow. So if you are into winter activities, that exists. So really, I think that when we talk about the climate in Eugene and in Oregon as a whole, a lot of people use that as a con, and I can't agree. That to me is a pro. There really is nothing that beats an Oregon summer. So that's where I'm at on that. Now we can talk about the cons that I think that exist in Eugene. One of the things that comes along with that seasonality and all the beauty of the climate, in my opinion, is allergies. We do have a big pollen problem, especially in Eugene, all of Oregon, but really Eugene gets hit hard. So if you have allergies or asthma or something like that, you're gonna have a couple months where it's gonna be really rough. You're gonna wanna, stock up on that Claritin. Yeah, so that's something to think about. One of my biggest cons, and I really thought hard about this because I didn't grow up in Eugene, I grew up outside of Portland, is the care taken of homes. I think that people take good care of their homes, but the vast majority of the homes in Eugene were built between the 1950s and the 1980s. And for whatever reason, the vast majority of them, even if they've been well maintained, have not been updated. So you're looking at, a 3-bed, 1-bath ranch home that has yellow Formica countertops and brown shag carpet, and maybe those things are still in good condition, but you walk in and you feel like you literally walked into the 70s. I had clients coming from Oklahoma, from South Carolina, that are used to a lot more new construction. They're also used to a lot more regular updating, and so kind of had quite a shock when they came here and saw that the homes literally looked like you walked into that 70s show. So for me, that's a con, just because I also am really into design. That's pretty typical of people in real estate, but I love beautiful design, and come on guys, let's do upgrades. Let's put in a new kitchen. That to me is a difficult one. But one of the other big cons, and probably the reason that people aren't doing those upgrades, is that Eugene does have a high cost of living. especially for the size of the town and the state of the job market. Like, it is a competitive job market. It's got a strong economy, but it's pretty specific in terms of its industries. For that all to be said, it has a really high cost of living. Housing costs are really high. I would say Portland trends just behind Seattle, and then we trend just behind them. Recently, I heard that Eugene got a place on the top 25 most expensive cities to live in. So that is something to consider. For me, the trade-off is worth it, right? Like, I'm willing to pay the cost of living because I really, truly have not found another place that feels like home the way that Eugene does, but it is certainly something to consider. I tried to ask my husband for some input on this video, and one of the cons that he came up with, which I think is really funny and also like I do think is really accurate, is our road systems. Our road systems are a bit complicated. Eugene core was built on a grid system when Eugene was originally built. So there's a lot of one-ways. And then, like, as the city grew, they started to change some. So some that were once one-ways are no longer one-ways. Some were reverted back to one-ways. It can be very confusing. On top of that, I would say that drivers in Oregon are their own breed, which I think is true of a lot of places. But I think one of the problems with Oregon drivers is actually that we can be too courteous. I cannot tell you the number of times that I have found myself at a four-way stop, and every single person at that four-way stop has gone 2 inches forward, waved somebody on, that person's confused, everybody goes 2 inches forward. Like, it's kind of a nightmare. So then when you factor that with our a bit complicated road system, driving can be, you know, you get used to it, but it can definitely be something to consider. And then the other con that I think that exists, because it has that smaller city feel, it doesn't have like a late nightlife. There are bars that are open. All the bars are open until 2, but I would say in terms of like people being out and being active at the bars, usually dies down at around 11 or midnight. And that can differ significantly. And both my husband and I have lived in bigger cities. And so that can differ significantly from larger cities where, you know, things are still happening and bustling until 2 or 3 in the morning. That's not really the case here. So if you're really into like a late nightlife, this is probably not the place. But like I said, so much other entertainment, you know, that is like just really, really, really valuable and really well organized, and a lot of artistic people. So I still think that you'll have plenty to do when you're living in Eugene. That's my list. Those are the pros, those are the cons. They're all subjective. Somebody might think something's a pro, that's a con. Let me know in the comments below if you disagree with me on anything, and I'll see you in the next video.